Tom Herman said that his program is heading into, quote, big-time evaluation mode. We're going to help his evaluations right now. What has happened to prevent Texas from being back?
Injuries have played a huge part of this. I mean, we've seen that in particular on defense, and we already knew they were young on defense, only 3 returning starters coming into the season. So we thought that might be a struggle for them, but even the running back position, the wide receiver position, basically everywhere out around Sam Ehlinger has been impacted by injuries. And I think the thing that stands out to me is, in particular on defense, when you have so many injuries and you have young guys in there, one, it's hard then to get them ready to play because they have to play. But then the next thing is sometimes you're going to have to change your scheme. And Todd Orlando is a more aggressive defensive coordinator. And at times I think they've given up a ton of big plays and they've struggled because of that. And it's gotten to the point now where is the team even motivated? I mean, and check out the tape we're going to show on Tom Herman. I mean, you go back and look at last week, what he did before the games, bashing his head against the player's helmet. I mean, that just reeks to me of desperation. And it's crazy to think where Texas is now at this point in the season compared to where they ended last season, Matt.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think injuries, Coach, you always talk about this, the healthier teams at the end of the season clearly have a better chance of winning football games, especially teams like Texas who have a lot of talent. And when you look at their last 2 games, they played Iowa State and Baylor, 2 of the top 3 defenses in the Big 12 conference, and they just really struggled. Brady, to your point, schemes. I think they've been out-coached, and I think this comes to Tom Herman and this staff really looking themselves in the mirror. Listen, the players got to go out there and play and execute and perform, but they also got to be put in a situation to go out and have success. And I just don't think the coaching staff has done that, because you can't sit up here and tell me that Texas doesn't have more talent than Iowa State. They don't have more talent than Baylor. They do, just collectively, they're just not getting the job done.
Yeah, and at the Red River rivalry in our pregame, I talked about the poor tackling and too many big plays in the secondary from defending the pass. They were 118th at this point. And then what happened in this game? CeeDee Lamb had 10 catches for 171 yards and 3 touchdowns. And you see the poor tackling, the lack of communication. There were 6 guys around CeeDee Lamb on that play. And then here, 2, 3 guys around him not making the tackles. And so now you look at what happened in that game, fast forwarding to now, they got worse. So they went from 118th now to 124th. And I think the offense started to feel a little bit of that pressure, and it started to carry over into the rest of the football game.
I agree with everything said, but this is college football. And in college football, the conversation begins with recruiting and it ends with recruiting. And then let's go back to, I think there's a perception issue on how you really measure recruiting. And you can see on the chart right here, Texas has done a great job recruiting. As far as the numbers, they've been #1 in the Big 12 every year but one, and they're a nationally recruiting powerhouse. But then look at the next chart. How do you ultimately measure recruiting? There's only 2 ways, and the viewership needs to know this. It's championships won, and it's NFL draft pick. And the one thing you can see on this chart, NFL draft pick, you're looking at Alabama and Ohio State, over 40 players drafted. Wow. Texas has 13. When we saw that earlier today, I was astonished. And 0 Big 12 titles. So it's not just recruiting, but recruiting and player development, Charles. And that's where you have to, you know, when you talk about evaluation period, when you see injuries, when you see non-development of players or NFL guys, why is that? Is it assistant coaches? Is it the weight room? Is it the nutrition program? You know, you can't just put this on players. You got to say, what's going on when they get there?
Yeah, I think coaching is a big deal, especially when you have the injuries. You talk about this team, they start the season off 3-1, and all of a sudden Coach Herman has to come to the podium and say, hey, we got 3 of our starters. They're down. You know, you're not replacing one guy. You got to replace 3 guys. And so what does that do? That puts the onus on the coach. Now you got to get guys prepared to go out there and play. They're top 5 in recruiting the last 2 seasons, like you said. So it's not like they're just putting in anybody in there for the guys that are injured. You're putting in, you know, some top recruits. So now you got to coach those guys up and get the most out of them. Whatever you got to do to change your scheme to get those guys prepared to play the game, you got to do that as a coach. That's on them. But the players, you also have a job to do as well. You talk about tackling. That's a lot of that is just will and want to and going out there and getting it done. But this thing goes hand in hand. If you have the recruits, you have the players, now you have the coaches that have to go out there and get those guys ready.
Reggie, before you go, just think 33 or 34 more draft picks in a 5-year window from Alabama, Ohio State, and Texas, and that's where I still look at that and I think, oh, my gosh.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I appreciate about our stop at USC is because we had a coaching staff that developed us for the next level. They developed us to play at the professional level. Even when I go back to my high school coaches, they developed me to play at the college level. And that's so important for coaches. When you bring players through your program, how are you preparing them for the next level? I felt like I was extremely prepared to start day one when I stepped on the field with the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just going to give one of my coaches some love because you talk about Pete Carroll. I'll talk about Vance Bedford, and you know Vance Bedford. I got here to the University of Michigan, really good athlete, but he turned me into a professional player during my time here at Michigan.
And one thing, if we go to Rob, is that development is nasty. It's hard. It's rugged. That's if you, I remember the USC days reading about what you get. It was every practice was you better strap it up, man. And that's what
And you know what else? You have to be coachable.
Yeah,
You have to be coachable. So.
And there's a prevailing sense in Austin this week. There's a lot of assistants coaching today for their jobs.
College football's fiercest rivals headline the biggest Big Noon Saturday on Fox. It all starts with a special 2-hour Big Noon Kickoff live from the Big House. Then Fields and number 1 Ohio State face Harbaugh and number 13 Michigan in the most anticipated game of the year. America's best pregame, America's best announcers, America's greatest rivalry. Ohio State, Michigan, all part of Big Noon Saturday on Fox and the Fox Sports app.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy that clip, make sure you click subscribe somewhere down here. From game highlights to exclusive interviews and rankings, we've got everything you need as a college football fan right here, College Football on Fox.